Well, when will the Covenant school shooter's writings be made public, if ever? It's a question Fox 17 News has tried to answer now for months.
The former student in this case killed 6 people at the elementary school, including 3 9-year-old children. Tonight, Fox 17 News' Amanda Chen talks with people on both sides about whether those writings should be made public.
The court battle's been back and forth for 2 months now, but one of the lawyers now tells us this case may not be resolved for 3 years. 6 lives tragically taken on March 27th, the shooter killed by Metro Police. Nashville Police Chief John Drake says the shooter had a detailed map, drawings of the Covenant School, known entry points, and journals. Almost 4 months later, the writings have yet to be released, despite public records requests from several organizations now suing Metro government.
What was going on with the Covenant School shooter? What was the motivating factors? Were there psychological issues? Were there organic issues?
John Harris represents the Tennessee Firearms Association, one of the organizations suing for the writings. Metro Police originally denied the open records, citing an open criminal investigation. But Harris believes since the shooter is dead and they haven't identified another person of interest, that exception doesn't apply. Plus, Harris feels Metro Police need to comply with the Tennessee Public Records Act. Did you think that this whole process would last this long?
Absolutely not. These cases were filed and we expected that the show cause hearings would have taken place as initially scheduled back in May. And here we are almost 2 months later, and the case is nowhere near resolution.
This comes after the judge allowed the Covenant School Church and parents to intervene and discuss why they feel the writings shouldn't be released. The petitioners appealed that decision, which is why the judge paused the case for now. Do the petitioners take any responsibility for this case lasting so long?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, 2 of the petitioners are news media outlets, and they were extremely concerned with the intervention issues because it proposes to create new exceptions to the Public Records Act that have heretofore never existed.
On the other side, most of the Covenant families do not want the writings released, with many penning emotional letters to the judge. The mother of William Kinney, one of the 9-year-olds who lost his life, believes those who are calling for the release of these records clearly care nothing about the well-being of their fellow humans and seek to rob the 6 murder victims of dignity in their deaths by demanding the release of sensitive details. 9-year-old Evelyn Dickhouse also lost her life. Her parents say in part, "We are now lying in bed with our oldest daughter every night to console her, and our own deep sadness of how we are to ever navigate life ahead of us without our Evelyn on this earth by our sides." The Dickhouse family believes the release of these writings could create a copycat effect.
That we as Covenant parents and families are resolute in our commitment to 1, protect our children and families, including those who were killed and all those who survived.
A clinical psychologist who's an expert in trauma and disaster mental health even wrote a letter to the judge supporting Covenant parents.
I think that there's a risk for public safety. I think that there's a risk for mental health harm to the children and families that survived the Covenant school shooting.
Dr. Erica Felix believes the release of these writings would also create a risk of inspiring a copycat attack. What would you say to those petitioners who feel this will help us learn why the shooter did this so we can prevent this from happening in the future?
A variety of law enforcement and emergency management organizations that work to try to keep our schools and communities safe. I think that is important for them to have access to that. We can get the lessons learned simply by releasing it to them. It doesn't need to be released to the broader public where it can live on the internet indefinitely.
When do you think that this case could be resolved?
Depending on the path it takes, it could easily be 2026.
To throw another curveball into the mix, the shooter's parents transferred ownership of the writings to the Covenant families in an effort to stop the release. But Harris thinks who owns the records is irrelevant and calls this an unprecedented public records case.